Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday, the Leading Change episode, this week with Stuart Tipples. Hey, Stuart, welcome back.
Hey, Vasco. Good to see you.
Likewise. So today we explore the murky waters of change, of course, because we are always involved with some sort of change process. Sometimes it's the team, the organization, and sometimes even ourselves. But whatever the change process it is, we need to have an idea of how we want to navigate it. So that's what we want to learn from you today, Stuart. So share a change process you were involved with us and tell us the story of how that went from beginning to end. And as you go, highlight for us the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
Yeah, of course. I think it's an interesting part of the Scrum Master role, the Scrum Master as organizational change agent, right? Because the big question, the biggie is, how do you as a Scrum Master lead change when quite often you have zero formal power, right? Hierarchically speaking, should we say, organizationally, right? It's super challenging. It's also really daunting. If it's something that you sort of are experiencing for the first time, it's really daunting to be mixing potentially in a C-suite with executives, with directors, and you are sort of trying to put forward these quite often cultural change, right? These big changes that are, the easier ones are the sort of the sort of governance and the structures. But when you're starting to talk about sort of big agile transformations that require mindset shifts, and you have to remind directorate and executives in the C-suite that it's not just the team that are going to have to change how they work. You guys are as well. And you've got like no formal sort of hierarchical power. It's really, really, really tough. I've had a couple of instances where I've been involved in this. We talked earlier about my time at British Telecom and during my time sort of in that sort of agile arena in digital, there were several sort of attempts and run-ups at quite sort of large scale change in terms of digital transformation. Some achieved a certain level of success. Others are happening now since I've left and sort of remain to be seen the benefit of. I think one of the more successful ones that I was part of and sort of helped lead the change on was in the early days of digital. And I had, at the time, I was working as a Scrum Master chapter lead. So I was working in a scaled environment. We had multiple sort of tribes. We'd adopted the Spotify model. Quite why, I'm not sure. Even Spotify didn't keep the Spotify model, but BT decided it was a good idea to sort of use. And I built a community practice. I did a huge recruitment drive, bringing in new Scrum Masters to the organization. And what was great was building that chapter, using them as my change agents, right? Getting out into their programs of work, arming them with the tools and the skills, whilst also from my position, a slightly easier position as a chapter lead, where I had a space at the table with the C-suite and with the directorate. And towards my end of this role, what was great was, by no means perfect. As we said, these people are messy. This work is complex and very, very challenging. But one of the great practices that I'd seen my directors in the digital space continue was they ran their own quarterly retrospectives. Now, something I suggested early on, we'd seen really great sort of response. They understood and saw the value in this. There is beneficial optics to a leadership team, sort of drinking the Kool-Aid and sort of practicing what they preach, right?
Absolutely.
It was really, really good. And again, it's one of those measures, sort of metrics of success as a Scrum Master or as any change agent is like, the behavior continues and it doesn't need you to drive it, right? So that was fantastic. And that was really good.
How did you get the directors to actually embrace that idea? I imagine maybe you had a few facilitated retrospectives with them, but how did you introduce the idea? What kind of, like, how did that develop?
It was quite an easy sell, if I'm honest, because, as I say, because this was a new sort of transformation, we had a culture focus group that was running in parallel. So that was generating a lot of feedback through sort of team health check surveys that were coming to the leadership. And it was a really easy suggestion to say, hey, look, the teams are going away and they're inspecting and adapting how they work. They are taking time to look back and they are taking time to set themselves actions as to how they can improve. And these are actions that they can measure so they can actually qualify and quantify those improvements. You guys should be doing the same. And more to the point, you should be seen to be doing the same. And it will get you positive feedback from the teams. But more importantly, you guys are going to improve. You're going to improve how you work as a leadership team because you are still, even individual directors, you're still part of that broader leadership team. So you still need to establish your ways of working. You still need to see what is working about how you're working and what can you change and be open to the idea of change. So in that instance, it was great because I was very much pushing on an open door. And as you say, a few sort of facilitated workshops, sort of retrospectives by myself, show them how it's done, show them sort of a bit of a structure, show them a couple of different ways they can run it, in fact, which is great because they had that variety to do so. But with the very simple sort of key sort of outcome has to be that you have, 2 or 3 actionable items that go on your backlog that you are going to go away, you are going to action, and you're going to come back and you're going to revisit and you're going to see what worked and see what didn't work, measure that success. In that instance, great, easy, and it really did have that positive impact of sort of showing the teams in the tribes, well, hey, these guys are doing it and that's great. And they're listening to us, right? Because they're taking that feedback, they're building it into their retrospectives, and now they're going to go away and they'll come back. So that communication was huge. I think on the flip side of like very challenging change, and where I guess this links to a sort of earlier discussions around sort of where, we will fail and we individually have to sort of take learning from that and sort of figure out what we'd do if we encounter that situation again, was a transformation, again, at value stream level that I'd been sort of asked to work with, this time from the position as an Agile coach. Very different, very challenging because we had external consultancies coming in to support as well. And being shut out of the room, not being invited to discussions, but also not even being able to sort of elbow my way into those discussions. It was very much closed door. The result being that when they came out of that room and sort of shared their structure, their approach, how they were going to build this, how they were going to do this, how they were going to build the teams, they had gone and built Waterfall.
Okay, so what you're saying is that in this contrasting change, instead of involving the people who were going to implement the details of that change in practice, they kind of went into, we could call it an ivory tower, right? Designed what would be the ideal value stream, but then when they came out, what they were actually preaching was basically going back to waterfall.
Yeah. And there's many, many, many factors to this. One was, to be clear, the intention was good, right? It was a big senior sponsored transformation. So the intention was well placed. The challenges were, You had, again, looking, they sort of maintained something very similar to the sort of a scaled, safe approach in that structure. But in that sort of tribe leadership role, they had 2 directors. So again, instantly, my sort of feedback is, are you really going to have the time you need as a director to show up daily, right? Because this role needs you here daily, right?
The role of a change agent requires us to show up daily.
Exactly, right? And of course, what happened is when they've built their team, they've built what they know, the structure, they've delegated all their roles to other sort of squads. We had 2-3 squads in the structure that were in service of the tribe. So not in service of the customer, not in service of the product. And arguably, like, if, being blunt as I was at the time, they offer 0 value. There is no value here. It's a complete, you have just delegated out your responsibilities in this role, which is why I challenged you. Are you the right person? Should you not be a sponsor of this value stream rather than a direct? And it comes to control, wanting to maintain control, or feeling that they need to maintain control. So it was super challenging. Didn't get resolved. I applied all my sort of usual techniques through relationship building of, like, I'll work with you. I'll make myself available to your time frame. You tell me when you're available and I will be available. I will work through this. We will help make this work. I will show you why this isn't going to work. You don't want to be the voice of doom, but it's like, I've seen this, I've lived through this, this will not work, and you will be revisiting this.
Yeah, and of course, at some point, we just need to step back and let them do their thing, right?
And the driving concern as well at the time for me personally was that this was the first attempt. So this was the experiment. So there is that element of, you're absolutely right, sometimes you've just got to let it play out and fail. My contrasting concern was, I don't want this to be the model of good. I don't want everyone else that sort of follows this to look at these guys and go, well, this is how they do it, so this must be great. So yeah, that one really tough. And I left that organization before I got to see that resolved.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, right. And I took a lot of learning from that one in particular, but from the positives as well, right? And again, if we want to sort of arm people with sort of tools and with some sort of something practical they can take away, I guess I would say change doesn't scale, change spreads. So don't try and change the org, right? Don't try and beat the machine, because you will lose. You're screaming in the wind, right? Change one team, affect what you can change, right? Change that one team you're working with. That will be contagious, because if you're celebrating the success and people are seeing that success, people will look to you and they will look to emulate that. So don't take on the machine, right? Because you won't win.
Exactly.
Change what you can affect, right? Work with that one team and watch that success spread.
That's a great advice. Thank you for sharing that, Stuart.
No problem.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, that's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.